why are they doing it this way? Completely wrong tonal vibe throughout the whole thing. Makes no sense to me. It should not be called Creepshow 3. It should be called something else completely. I don't know.
Well,
but it's odd.
Creepshow 1982, Creepshow 2 1987, Creepshow 3 2006.
Yeah.
So it's like there's not even like this is 20 years later.
Okay, well that's not entirely fair, okay? Because Tron Legacy, how many years later did that come out?
Yeah,
Almost
no, but
30.
I'm saying that the Creepshow movies have a vibe to them, Brandon. Have an identity. You know, this 80s gore, this flashiness, right? They're kind of a time, and that's great. You know,
which they maintained in the Shudder series. They maintained that.
Well, no, and you can totally replicate that. Absolutely. I'm not saying because it came later it's bad. I'm saying there's such a gap between the two. They didn't bother to try to replicate anything. They were like, some people with a camera in 2006 made a movie.
Yeah.
You know,
see, it's not the gap that bothers me. It kind of does, but also the fact that there was nobody, as far as I know,
no connective tissue and behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody behind the creative team. Nobody in the creative team on this movie, Creepshow 3, that was that had any hand in Creepshow 1, 2, Tales from the Dark Side. Nobody. It wasn't until the TV show, till Shudder came, and got the rights and got the TV show, and who was it? Greg Nicotero, who worked on Creepshow 2 and worked with Romero and King. He came in and was like, "Yeah, I'll help steward this show because I was there. Like I have this sense of like what we were trying to accomplish back then. So of course I'd be the perfect person to do it." Nobody. I mean, and to your point, Brandon, Tron Legacy. I mean, you even have Jeff Daniels back. I mean, there's some people who come back and make it connect. There's no connection here. No, nothing.
Like, can you think of another series of movies where a sequel would have happened, whether it's part 2 or part 3 or part 12, right? Where by that point nobody is the same, but it still works as a movie because of like the what they put into it. Like I don't really look too much into it beyond directors. Like I'm interested in directors of films and I'll follow a director's career, but beyond that, I don't really follow writers or producers or things like that.
I mean, if we're talking direct sequel, I don't know. I wish I were more into horror sequels because I just know the basics. I know. I wonder. I guess Friday the 13th would be an example because I'm assuming by like Jason X, there's a complete departure, right, from I think the creative team, or maybe I don't know. I have to look into it because it's been a while since I've seen those movies. I'm not sure if the original creators were still involved by that point. Probably not. Is my guess.
Usually there's a like even Halloween had Mustafa Akkad on the entire time. Like there's usually someone you can trace back.
And then when he unfortunately passed away, then his son came in and like the production company was still involved in like the future movies. So there's still, I mean, and even Friday the 13th, Paramount Studios was still behind it. This thing came out under HBO Home Video through Taurus Entertainment and Creepy Film Productions. I don't know what any of that is beyond HBO. So I can't think of a good example to compare a franchise installment that is like this far removed from its original. That's still with the same name. Apparently, the third part, it's still trying to connect to a series that has no right being connected to.
Mm-hmm. Like as I was saying before with the comedic elements, like when you get to the mail order bride segment, like legit watching that, I'm like, they want me to be falling off my seat with laughter. That is the goal of this skit. And I'm just like not. Like it didn't work. Like nothing about even that skit worked. And they were playing it for laughs. Which is missing. They're completely missing the point of Creepshow.
It does, Marcelo, you had an excellent point. Like I really did try to find some like how did Stephen King and Romero lose rights to this? But there's no I found no like trail of evidence in how it went from like this studio, these directors, this creative team to like, oh, anyone can just make a movie out of it. Because you think there'd be some protection of the IP, and there's zero here, and that shows.
Yeah. And then, like, another part that completely misses what Creepshow is they've tried to make this like a Pulp Fiction style where everything is connected, and the other Creepshows didn't have that either.
No.
There may have been, like, the ashtray, like you said, but that's just an in-joke, is something to watch for, where this, like, there's an act of these characters show up, you see actual scenes from different perspectives, in different skits. So characters are intertwined, and characters are intertwined in every single story. So basically, all of these stories are pretty much taking place at the exact same time as well. Like, it's really weird. Like, it's trying to be it's something completely different. It's trying to be something completely different than what they are, and it's kind of frustrating. So,
yeah, for me, I'm not sure if we're still going segment by segment, but I just want to jump real quick to the Professor's Wife segment, which is maybe the most infuriating of them all. To your point, like
that's
Brandon,
the one that I was saying where, like, the mail order bride, I called it. Yeah, but the Professor's Wife.
Yeah, okay. Then we're talking about the same thing. I just want to reiterate, that is bad.
Oh my goodness.
that joke that they're going for, of them thinking like it's a robot or something, and then tearing it. Oh, it's terrible. It does. Yeah.
For the listeners that haven't seen, we'll quickly explain what this is. So we'll go in order on these ones here. So we've talked about Alice. We'll talk about the Professor's Wife. So the professor from the first one, he's a teacher at the local school, and he's getting married, and he invites these two awesome favorite students of his to his house to meet his bride,
who, by the way, look 40 years old.
And they're convinced that the professor has actually created like a robot wife, and so for some reason the professor has to leave the house and leave these two men with the wife to go get something from the store, and they decide to take her apart and figure out how he put her together, because she has no memory. She's like, I don't remember how I met him. I don't have any memory beyond like X amount of days ago, or whatever she says in this thing. I'm sorry, I don't remember the details. And they literally start hacking her apart in the kitchen. And it's a while before they're all like, oh, look at how realistic this
so realistic.
Looks. So realistic. Look at all this wonderful oil. It looks just like blood. And after they've completely torn her apart and pulled her brain out of her skull, they realize that she's a human and they've just murdered her. And then they go through this slapstick routine of hiding the body parts in like every drawer and cupboard they can
American
possibly
Psycho
find.
style.
Sure. Yeah, or Mr. Bean when he's trying to hide the raw hamburger that he bought.
Bean.
Mr. Bean did it better, okay? So
now I'm just imagining Mr. Bean as a serial killer.
Oh, that would be amazing. I want to see that.
I want that movie. I want that sequel.
Yeah. Anyways, so okay, go ahead. Anyway, so that sums up the story. Oh, and then to make matters worse, at the end of it, when the professor comes home and opens the oven,
she's
and
in
he
the
sees
oven.
the head in there.
Disgusting.
And he's just like, oh well.
Okay, I want to bring this up too. So, yes, we've talked about how the comedy in this does not work at all. Beyond cringeworthy. Just idiotic. What I loved about the first two, and it's gone here, is, and we talked about this, maybe too in depth, I think, just the how it's like, yes, it's like an attack on like capitalism, and there's some underlying theme there about evil being thwarted with evil, how the quote unquote bad people get their comeuppance, on varying degrees, from like an annoying wife to, actual evil, capitalist pigs, get what they deserve in the first two. There's no purpose here in Creepshow 3. The people who get killed and murdered, especially this the wife here, there's no reason for her to get killed, but beyond just a stupid joke. So,
because it's funny, Marcelo.
It's. I mean, if it didn't, of course it didn't work back then. Of course it's not going to work in 2020. So it's awful. It's bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
Nothing dates poorer than bad comedy.
Yes.
So rewinding back, Alice, we talked about that one. The teenage girl devolves into a rabbit, basically.
She got what she deserved, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
She was mean, so she deserved to get melted and turned into a rabbit because she was a mean teenager.
And their whole family forgets she existed as well. Just
except for the mom, as we find out in another.
Yeah,
segment.
at the very end, the mom still remembers her. But so moving on.
Actually, before we move on, we might as well talk about the epilogue because it pertains to the professor's wife.
It actually pertains to both what we were talking about. Yes,
I'm glad we're jumping around like the movie jumps around. See,
exactly. We're giving you the same experience you get watching Creepshow 3 because you're not going to get it because you're not going to watch it. Please don't.
Please don't. Please don't.
This is just like watching the movie. Okay.
Yeah. Except it's more enjoyable. So the epilogue, the professor somehow put this woman back together again and then marries her.
But she's still falling apart, isn't it funny?
Is this supposed to be like Frankenstein's bride or something like that, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, because she throws the bouquet when they leave the church, and her hand goes with it. He's like, oh, you're such a jokester. And they get in the car, and her eyes start bleeding, and Alice the rabbit is there in the back seat for some reason.
And then we cut to the family from the beginning one.
Yeah, and the mom's like, oh, Alice is going to have such a great wedding. And then the family talks to the priest like, she still thinks we have a daughter. And it's like, isn't that funny?
Uh-huh. Okay, so let's go to the radio. So in the radio, there's a guy who buys a used radio from the guy in the street where everybody's buying everything else. And this radio starts talking to him and basically telling him to steal money from this local pimp, and then
kill someone who sees him. Like it gets more and more intense as it goes on.
Yeah, hilarity ensues.
Although the radio now, this is I kind of liked the concept of this one. Again, the execution for all these is horrible.
This is the best of the 5.
Yes, I agree. Marcelo, what do you think? What do you think of the radio? Is it the best of the 5? Do you agree?
I'm going to be honest here. Kind of dozed off during this one.
I don't blame you.
Well,
but
best is a relative term when we're talking about this movie.
But I'm actually watching it again here now on mute, like as we're recording. And okay, the main concept I think is like good, right? I mean, the how it ends is also kind of sinister. I like that too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wish it were in a better movie. And also, hey, if it's the same AJ Bowen I'm thinking of, who is the star of this segment, didn't he go on to like co-star in like other like horror films that are of note after that? I think AJ Bowen. I can look him up real quick, but that's a surprise that he's in this.
Well, AJ, let me just put this in perspective. AJ Bowen is the only actor on the Wikipedia page for Creepshow 3 that actually has a link to take you to more on him.
Yes, so I just looked it up. He's in The Guest. He's in You're Next. He's in The Sacrament. He has a legitimate career. He's the only one from this movie production that went on to have an actual career. So, if you take all that into account, minus me being dozy throughout this segment, yes, I think you could make a good case of this being the best one out of the however many there are in this movie.
Right, and part of the reason why I would say that it's the best of them is because this one actually felt like it could have been something from the original, because it is a horror concept that you've seen before. Some type of haunted something is talking to its owner, convincing it to do bad things. We've seen this in horror stuff before. Radios, stuffed animals, photographs, things like this, where it like convinces somebody to do something because they hear a voice.
You know what it reminded me of, Brandon, of the episode of The X-Files with the tattoo? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. With Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster did the voice of the tattoo, so yes. But we've seen this before as well. But yes, I heavily thought of The X-Files as well.
But these are all bad people. And the radios are all playing them against each other, and I found that interesting. Like you think it's just this one radio, and the quote unquote hero character, the security guard, he's using it. There's a prostitute who lives in this building. He wants to save her. The radio says, "I'll kill her. She's going to kill you." He smashes the radio, but the radio was right. She did kill him, but then her pimp kills her, and he has his own radio telling him what to do. So I that was twisted, dark, felt like an EC comic on some level. So
yeah.
So the radio was like Yojimbo, right? Playing the sides against each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, this is brilliant. This is amazing.
Well, no, is it the same essence in different radios, or is it different radios working against each other? See, there's so many themes here you can delve into.
Oh my gosh.
Are we all part of a big radio scheme in this world?
I mean,
we're all listening to our own radios with our own self-interest in mind that conflict with other radios and their self-interests. Think about it.
Well, my iPad convinced me to watch this movie, so yes. As a matter of...
We're giving this a lot more credit than I think the writers.
Well, the fact that we could even go that deep, even joking, says more for this story than any of these others, because there's literally nothing else.
Yeah. Beyond that, I mean, I don't know what we can possibly say about Haunted Dog or Call Girl.
Yeah. So Call Girl is next.
Well, hold on. Did you catch the connection in this one? The cop is the dad from the first one.
Oh, wow. Ooh. And he's still an idiot here. He's just everyone's an idiot really in this whole movie, but that's his shtick. Oh, I'm a cop. Do you have any more milk? Oh. Yeah. Terrible. So bad.
So Call Girl. So we've got a